Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Caitlin, and I'm here with Sam. We are on AWLA's behavior team. We are very excited for you to join us today. So we will be talking about preparing your pet for a post-COVID world. So with that, we all know that COVID turned our world completely upside down in such a short amount of time. That it also affected our pets, though, and I think that's something that a lot of people maybe didn't originally think about. We all jumped onto the fostering bandwagon, which was absolutely fantastic. And thank you to anyone who is a foster or adopter of an animal, of a rescue pet this time of year. And we also are so excited to be talking about how to readjust our pet when it's time to go back. So, our animals were, with us the entire step of the way when we were home all the time, but now they have to get used to us leaving again, which can be a very big adjustment for some of our pets, especially those that, maybe are a little bit more of a Velcro dog or a shadow cat and like to follow you around. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So Sam's going to be starting us off with talking about how to adjust your dog, and then I will be picking it right back up to talk about how to adjust your cat.
Okay.
Over to you, Sam.
I'm Sam. I am also part of the behavior team, as Caitlin said. So I am going to try and share my screen here. Give me 1 second and bear with me. I am not the most tech savvy person. So here we go. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this. So like Caitlin said, we are going to be talking about prepping your pet for a post-COVID world. And just to get started. So what does a post-COVID world mean to us? So obviously it's a very exciting thing. We get to see all of our people again. Life is going to go back to normal, right? So bars, restaurants, at least the ones that aren't open yet, are going to reopen. We're going to try to go to parties. We're going to have such fun times ahead. And so it's going to be really fun for us. But what does that mean for our pets, right? So for our pets, this means a lot more alone time. So as us humans go back to the office and go back to a normal routine, we have to think about our pets and how we're going to acclimate them to alone time. So whether they've been left alone before, or if they're now living their best lives with you by their side 24/7, we want you to set up your pets for success. So hopefully we can prevent any potential behavior issues that could pop up, or keep them from intensifying if you've seen some already. So before we go back to our normal lives. This presentation will be especially important for pet owners who acquired a pet during quarantine, but also be useful for those who want to take preventative measures with their pet that they've had for years. So just remember, quarantine was an adjustment for all of us, and that includes our pets. Let's see, so what will we be addressing today? So as we address the issues in both species, that's right, cats and dogs. Who knew that cats could have separation stress, right? We will be doing a fairly brief overview over these things so that we have time to answer any questions, and so we can get through everything in the presentation today. So if you would like to learn more about these topics, please reach out to our behavior team, and we will share our contact information at the end of the presentation, as well as a few other resources throughout that you can check out. So how do we start addressing these issues now? Well, we're going to be using some hands-off methods and some independence training. We're going to talk about the benefits of environmental enrichment, and we're going to give you some suggestions on different tools to try, and talk about what does socialization really mean. So for at least your animals that can go outside, it's going to look like a different world out there. And with people starting to come into your home again, it's going to look like a different place inside as well. So we're going to get started with dogs. So again, this is helpful for people who have just acquired a dog, or if you've had a dog for years and you just need a little refresher on how they can be alone. So separation related problems, also known as SRPs. So SRPs really fall on a spectrum. So on the mild end, there's separation stress. On the extreme end, there's separation anxiety. So how do we tell these two things apart? So separation anxiety is more of a panic disorder. So a dog could potentially harm itself and practice escape behaviors. They could have destructive behaviors. They could be urinating and defecating in the home. Whereas separation stress are milder than, it has milder behaviors. So things such as like panting, pacing, potentially vocalizing, like whining, crying. These are not necessarily signs of separation anxiety full on, but it could lead into that. So like I said, it can be difficult to really tell these apart, as some of these behaviors can overlap each other. So other behaviors that are attributed to SRPs, like I said, urinating and defecating while the owner is away. So to suss out whether or not your dog has true separation anxiety, meaning that it's on the extreme spectrum of SRPs, you should really consult with your vet or see a veterinary behaviorist for medication support. And this is something that I'll briefly touch on later in the presentation. Okay, so where do we start? A slow approach is going to be integral to success. So when we don't go slowly and our dogs are immediately exposed to being alone, this can dredge up a lot of stress. It can intensify behaviors that you may be seeing already and could even potentially be traumatic. So I know traumatizing our animals is the last thing we want to do. So like I said, slow approach. We want to desensitize our dogs to not only us leaving, but also to the process of leaving. So departure cues, such as picking up your keys, bag, putting on shoes, can indicate to your dog that something stressful is about to happen. So when we're not careful, these departure cues can translate into other items as well, i.e. Giving a peanut butter Kong every time you leave. So that something like that can become a predictor of you leaving, which means a predictor of, oh my gosh, I'm about to have a panic attack. Independence activities, which I will touch on in just a few minutes, are something that can be prepared throughout the day, or peppered in throughout the day, I'm sorry. And those of us with new dogs or dogs that have been living their best lives with us around all the time need to learn or relearn what it's like to do something without you. So as you will soon find out, these activities don't have to be strenuous on your schedule or your time. And to illustrate how important desensitization is, I'm going to talk to you about Nola. She's actually my personal dog that I rescued about 4 years ago. She came to us with a limited history. She was a stray in DC. She had a really convoluted story where she went from home to home, and a friend of a friend acquired her through Craigslist, couldn't keep her, so I ended up with her. She's the sweetest dog in the world with people. She's dog reactive, but most importantly, and to obviously remain relevant to this presentation, she has some separation related problems. So obviously we didn't know this until we left her for the first time ever, which you can see did not turn out very well. So we can talk a little bit about what happened here. We had only had Nola for about 4 days. So I had taken her off. I had taken off of work myself to kind of help her with the transition into our home. But then I went out to run some errands to pick up stuff for her. And I was gone for about an hour. When I left, she was barking and whining. So I waited at the door for about 10 seconds. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm just going to let her cry it out. Like, that's what I keep hearing people say. I was such a novice dog owner at the time. And I was allowing her to kind of free roam. So when I came home and found this, she had destroyed all of my plants. She dug them up, shredded them, got into a bag of random soil that I had for my house plants. She destroyed books, toys, pens. Her mouth was blue. Anything basically that she could grab, she destroyed. Miraculously, you can see in the top left corner of the photo, she did not chew on the remote, which I'm like, what? That's crazy. That's the thing that I would expect her to even try and get. But the next time I left her alone, I placed her in a crate, which we hadn't worked on confinement training quite yet. The crate wasn't secure. I had borrowed it from a friend, and she ended up breaking out and repeating the scene a couple more times before I found out how she was getting out, and that I kind of needed to change my approach. So because of these incidents and not taking it slowly with her, we kind of set her up for failure in novel environments as well. So when we would go on vacation with her, we would try to leave her and she would scream. She chewed the base of her crate. She shredded blankets inside of her crate. She shredded a couple of beds. So, I mean, it was just not fun for her. So it was only after medication and slowly transitioning her out of the crate that we're now able to leave her to free roam. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And with that, let's dive in. So as we go through these next slides, I want you guys to keep in mind that not all dogs learn at the same speed, and your training journeys are going to look a little different from probably your friends, neighbors, and relatives' experiences, or even experiences that you've had with past animals that you've had. So just keep that in mind. Not everyone's story is going to be the same, right? Okay, so let's talk about where we start, which is starting to desensitize to departure cues. So I want you all to think about your dog's reactions when you pick up certain items in the house while getting ready to go somewhere. So items like your keys, purse, putting on shoes. My dog knows when we're leaving the house when we shower one person after the other. So she's become very, very sensitive to our departure cues. And so just think about where your dog's body language starts to change. Is it when you pick up your keys? Is it when you put on your shoes? Is it when you grab your bag? And when I say that, I mean like, does the dog start to tense up? Is he or she kind of cowering in a corner? Does it go to a certain spot? And because dogs are so sensitive to what our body language and context cues like departure cues are saying, we should start really desensitizing them to these. So the next time you pick up your purse or grab your keys and your dog doesn't associate those things with a negative or aversive experience, that's really what the goal is. So I am going to play a video for you, and this is Nola, so it's my personal dog again. We never really desensitized her to departure cues, and so this was really her first time working on it, and you can tell by her body language in the video, which I will play in a second. She's constantly watching what I'm doing. She is very tense. She gets up at one point. So let me just play the video so that you guys can kind of see what I mean when I say desensitize. And hopefully, I don't know if there's a volume. Oh, I hear it. Okay. So I'm wrestling a backpack, which is what I bring to work every day. I have my keys. Just sit with her for a second. She's like, what the heck is going on? And I give her a little treat just to start associating more positive feelings with the things that she usually is like, oh crap, these people are leaving me. More keys. She's like, okay, we're going somewhere. Mom has her purse. Nope. You can also see that I'm running out of things to pick up. So basically, the overall goal moving forward with that would be for her to lay down on the couch like she is in the beginning of the video, having her ears be less alert. It's harder to tell with dogs who have ears that are pointy like that, but you can always tell when your dog is a little tense, right? So, or when they're expecting something or anticipating something. So my ideal would be for her to just have her head down in between her paws, and just be a little bit more relaxed and not feel so triggered by keys, shoes, purses. I mean, as soon as I grabbed my purse, you saw she ran off the couch and was like, all right, what's going on? And she seemed a little more excited when that happened, because if I'm bringing my backpack, it's because I'm going to work. If I'm bringing a purse, she's usually coming with me. But that's only during COVID. So trying to get her more, okay, well, that's not that big of a deal. That's the goal for her for that. Okay. Oh, it's going to play it again. Hold on just a second. How do I do this? Okay. Once you have your dog become a bit more desensitized to your departure cues, you can start to leave your dog alone. So we're going to start introducing shorter departures. So when I say that, you're going to start very small and increase incrementally. So my usual starting point is 1 minute. If the dog doesn't whine or cry, or if you don't hear any disturbances behind the door, then you can start to increase to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, etc. So if your dog does start to whine, it is okay. What we don't want to hear is panicking. And trust me, when you hear panicking, you will know what that is. It basically sounds like your dog is screaming. It can also come in the form of high-pitched barking or howling. So to kind of counterbalance that, you always want to leave something for your dog to do during that time, so that if it's something tasty like a stuffed Kong, or just like a really nice chew, or like a snuffle mat or a treat scatter, it creates a positive association with that time alone. You can also set up a camera on your phone to film while you're away. And it doesn't have to be anything expensive. I know Amazon sells some for like 30 bucks. You can also just use your phone. A lot of the videos that I have on here are filmed with phones. Since they have such great cameras these days, why not take advantage, right? But if you find that your dog isn't interacting with their activity, or if they're just not improving, what you can do is, if you are gone for 1 minute and you hear a lot of stress, you can either repeat the same time increment before increasing the time, or you can decrease the time that you're away. So instead of 1 minute, you can go away for 30 seconds. Or if even 30 seconds is too much, start at 15 seconds. What we don't want is a traumatizing period of time for your animal. Otherwise, it comes in the form of, what you saw from my past experience. Okay. So next is a video of a puppy that I was actually a long-term foster for. He had some separation stress from some experiences that he had in the past. So he was diagnosed with a medical condition that is very contagious to other dogs, and was placed in medical isolation for almost 3 weeks. So because of this, he would become incredibly stressed when we would leave him alone, even with my other dog there. So after conditioning him to a crate, we started to work on short departures. So this video is about 2 minutes long, and it had taken us about, I think, 2 days to get to this point. So we can take a look and just see. I did not get out of my pajamas for this video. Sorry, guys. You can also hear in the background that I have some calming music on, because we had been working with him with that. And I'm about to drop a treat for Nola, and then for him. So to the right, there is a window where you can see the street. So I kind of had to get a little sneaky with it and hide next to the window so they couldn't see me. So you can see his body language is alert. He's not super calm. He's like, where the heck did that lady go? I believe at this point I was standing in the hallway so I could hear him. So I came in when I knew he was going to be quiet. And it was actually nice working with him on this at the same time we were working with my personal dog with it. Um, so again, he is a case I was actually lucky enough to bring him to work while working on his separation stress. The perks of working in an animal shelter. So we were able to leave him alone for up to 5 hours while he was still house trading within about a month. And again, it's because he had gone through such a traumatic event like medical isolation during puppyhood. So he was kind of a tough case, and we weren't always consistent, I will say, with the training, which can be problematic in a multi person household. So when you are training, or if you're planning on getting a pet, or if you guys have just acquired one, it's really important to kind of get on the same page about training consistency so that everything can be consistent. So, what are we doing when we're leaving the animal alone? What enrichment are we leaving for them? If we're doing meetings or if we're working from home, things like that. So, okay. So, if you remember this song where it says INDEPENDENT, do you know what that means? Do we know what that means? You'll probably get a chuckle out of it. If not, it's okay. I promise it's funny. So how can we teach independence? So we're going to start small and pepper some more activities, or enrichment is what we call it, into your daily routine. So activities that promote problem solving and engage in the natural and biological needs of your dog. So the easiest ones to implement are food foraging toys and sniffing. Not only are these activities fun for your dog, but they'll also help your dog build confidence in their environment, thereby helping to decrease the separation related stress. So, like I said, we will start small with your daily routine. So maybe after your morning walk, your dog gets a food puzzle to forage their breakfast out of. During your morning Zoom meetings, your dog gets a cardboard box filled with treats. We call them here at the shelter busy boxes. It's basically sort of like a Russian nesting doll situation with different boxes, treats, toys. You can put anything in there, and they will have so much fun shredding that up. And then in the afternoon, maybe they get a frozen Kong that you prepped the night before. So after evening walks, they could even get their dinner out of a snuffle mat or a puzzle toy. And these are just small, relatively hands-off activities that you can have ready for your dog to gain some independence just throughout the day. If you're conditioning your dog to be in a crate, you can give your dog these activities in the crate. And in doing so, you can strengthen their positive association with the crate as well. So if you do have a major Velcro dog, though, what you can do is you can utilize some barriers. So we already kind of touched on the crate. There's also a tool called an X pen, which is built like a freestanding baby gate, and it can adjust to make the space much larger for your dog. So if your dog just wants to be on your lap or be constantly touching you while you're home or working from home, you can start with the X pen or very close to you. So even touching you while your pup is working on their activity. So you can slowly move further away, like inch by inch or foot by foot, depending on how the dog feels about that, thereby increasing distance and then helping both of you gain a little bit more independence of each other. So once you're able to be several feet away without a fuss, you can actually start to remove the barrier. daily enrichment. It helps to build life skills. So here's some example of enrichment activities to set out for your dog, either while you're training independence or even when you're away. So we can start with this first video. This is a dog named Teddy, who actually did have some separation issues. As you can see on the sidewalk, I have a couple of boxes that are filled with treats, and that little thing that he's working on right now is called a snuffle mat. And you'll see in the next video another example of a snuffle mat as well. But this was just to kind of increase his level of independence outside, because he literally just wanted to be in your lap all the time. This video is a video of a dog named Akira. We were working on crate training with her and creating positive associations with the crate. So as you can see, we have both doors open in the crate, and the snuffle mat is in there filled with delicious things. By the time we were done crate training with her and creating those positive associations, she would just go in there and sit in there. Even if we closed the doors, she was like, whatever, and just would take a nap. So that's a pretty good successful story, I think. I will say, because people do have this concern about busy boxes, if you're worried about your dog getting into other cardboard boxes and mistaking them for busy boxes, then what you should do is only leave out boxes that are meant for shredding. So that means packages get stored away somewhere. Snacks are not left out, like cereal boxes, Cheez-Its, whatever you want to eat. It's not going to be for your dog, right? So this will be kind of the rule of thumb for anything else that you don't want chewed up anyway. So hopefully we can just translate that into each other, and you won't have Amazon packages shredded everywhere, unless you want your dog to do it. But let's move on to the next one. Oh, this is going to happen to me every time. I can just tell. I'm sorry, you guys. Technology novice over here. Okay, so let's talk about the overall benefits of these types of things. So these puzzle toys are kind of scientifically proven to reduce stress and anxiety. It increases levels of dopamine in the brain and decreases levels of cortisol, which is the stress home run. So it also builds confidence using problem-solving skills, and in turn, it creates more independence in your dog. It also, like I said, meets your dog's natural and biological needs of food foraging, because they are natural foragers. It's kind of just what they do. And it's just really, really beneficial for them, and relieves a lot of stress and anxiety. You can see in this picture, there are different types of puzzle toys that you can purchase out there. So there's the brown one is one that you have to kind of slide around the pieces to get to the little divots where the treats are hiding. The one shaped like a bone to the right of the brown one, I just realized both the blue ones are shaped like bones. The one to the right is one that you have to kind of slide the different pieces, because they're all just in this big bone shape, to get to the different levels of treats. And then the one at the bottom, you have to pick up the little green cups. So it's different ways to activate the brain. So I put all three of them out for my dog basically before every walk, so that I can decrease any stress levels that she's had from her early morning walk. And then in the middle is just a bunch of delicious looking treats that my dog really loves. So, and you guys can use anything for that, honestly. Okay, so tools for success. These are a few items that can help you on the path to working with your dog and the separation stress. So medication is at the top of the list, because if your dog is experiencing true separation anxiety, medication should be your first step and line of defense. Obviously, talk to your vet, and if you want to go to a veterinary behaviorist, then they can give you kind of a medication plan and a behavior modification plan. So you can kind of knock two birds out with one stone. But medication has really helped my dog. She's on a very low level of what they call puppy Prozac. It's fluoxetine. I am not a vet, and our behavior team, we don't do diagnoses for animals. So that's why I encourage you to talk to a certified veterinarian. Crates, baby gates, and X pens. Creating barriers is going to be very important. We already kind of talked about the use of the crates and the X pens. Baby gates are really useful if you have kind of a puppy-proofed room already or a dog-proofed room that you can just put a baby gate in to practice that separation from your animal. And then let's see what else. Adaptil. This is a product that is a calming pheromone. So you can get it in different types and different forms. So they have these pheromone collars that you can just put directly on your dog. It is activated by like the body heat of your animal. There are also adaptable diffusers, so you can just diffuse it into the air. It does not have a scent. We cannot smell it. It's only beneficial by putting the pheromones out there. It's unscented, I promise. And then we also have the Adaptil spray. We actually use this a lot here at the shelter. We spray ourselves down with Adaptil when we're working with fearful dogs. And we've sprayed like linens and blankets and stuff down when we're just getting to know a dog. A lot of our dogs actually wear Adaptil collars as well, just so that they can have a nice calming sensation when they're in their kennels and away from people. Pet cams, I already kind of talked about that. Like I said, you can purchase really cheap ones on Amazon. Chewy sells them as well, but you can always just use your phone. You can also use your computer and kind of Zoom yourself. I've done that too. You Zoom yourself through your phone to your computer, and you can just watch your dog live, and you can even talk to your dog too if you want to. Something that is super helpful that I have also found super helpful for myself and my personal animal is starting a log. So like, how long did I leave my dog on Monday? It was 10 minutes. Great. What was the intensity of my dog's reaction on Monday? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like, I'm fine hanging out, I'm on a beach with a beer, like that type of hangout chill time, to 10 being like, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack. I have to get out. I have to find my mom. So you can kind of record those throughout the week and see how your dog is improving. You can also take that log and share it with your vet so that they can kind of see like, okay, well, if you do go the medication route, okay, well, is this medication working? What can we do to kind of adjust? Yummy treats are always going to be something great to leave for your dog, and it's a great tool for any type of behavior modification. I have on the slide, if your dog is a dog that chews things and ingests things, and you're not comfortable leaving your dog with a snuffle mat or a Kong or something that is breakable, you can start to make popsicles. Popsicles are awesome. You can do homemade ones. You could probably actually share them with your dog because some of them don't sound that bad tasting. So you guys can each have a popsicle. But it's just something that they can lick because licking is very soothing for dogs as well. And it's safe to ingest. So another thing that's on here is called Karen Overall's Relaxation Protocol. This is the written version of it that you can see on the slide over to the bottom right. It's basically, it teaches you how to teach your dog to relax. So there is an audio version of it. There's an audio file version. If you just literally Google Karen Overall's Relaxation Protocol, it'll be the first thing to pop up. It basically asks you like, okay, after 5 seconds of sitting, treat your dog. 10 seconds, treat your dog. Go back to 5 seconds. And so it's a really helpful tool in teaching yourself to relax around your dog and teaching your dog to relax, period. I found it helpful for dogs here at the shelter. I did it for the puppy that you saw in the video where I was gone for a bit, and it works wonders, honestly. There's also a thing called brown noise. There's white noise and brown noise. I learned about brown noise once I started working here. It's supposed to be much more calming than white noise. It's just at a decibel level that dogs find very soothing. You can also play calming music. So again, with the puppy in the crate where I left, there was calming music playing in the background. There are tons of YouTube playlists that you can find for free that can help you with that. And just something that I encourage everybody to read who's having problems with separation anxiety is a book called I'll Be Home Soon, How to Prevent and Treat Separation Anxiety by Patricia B. McConnell. She is an applied animal behaviorist, and she's awesome. So, okay, so now that we've talked about what to do about separation anxiety in the home, let's take some of our work outside and see what we can do about socializing your dogs. With the lack of foot traffic during COVID in some areas, trust me, I've seen other areas where it's like, oh my God, people go inside, and less action. So our dogs are going to have to be slowly reintroduced to our incoming full capacity out on the streets, or introduced to it for the first time. So let's see. All right, it's prime time to socialize. Start now. Let's talk about these general questions in terms of socializing our dogs, right? So how will this affect our dogs? How do we socialize our dogs? I mean, what does that even mean? Does that mean I take them to daycare, to the dog park? Do I just go meet a bunch of dogs out on the street on leash? I think if your dog has been fairly isolated from new people or experiences or new dogs, rules of thumb to not traumatizing your dog. Don't bring your dog to a farmer's market. Don't bring them to a flea market or an outdoor event right away. Don't bring your dog to a dog park, especially if there's no history of meeting other dogs. You just don't know how that's going to go, and it can be traumatizing for some dogs. And don't bring your dog to a patio to have brunch, lunch, or dinner. I know how tempting it is because you want them to be with you, but some dogs, they just don't know what to do in that situation at first. So I've told you a lot about what not to do. Let's talk about what you should do. Okay. Like I just talked about, the lack of familiarity can be pretty scary for dogs. Flooding can occur in these situations. I know Caitlin is going to talk about flooding a little bit during her portion. So I can just give you a really fun anecdote from my life. I remember going to New York City for the first time ever. I was 11. I'm from Arlington, and it was not super urban like it is now back in the day. Going to Times Square for the first time, all of these people surrounding me, it was like you were a packed little sardine just kind of moving through the crowd. I straight up had a panic attack, and I had to like go inside of a store to just bring myself down. So that was pretty traumatizing. That happens to our animals too. So it makes the acclimation process a little more difficult as we keep moving. So just, we'll try to stay away from the trauma. So what we'll do is, again, we're going to go slowly. So we'll make positive associations and do slow introductions to different areas, different activities. I saw actually somebody in my neighborhood who I just really wanted to go up to and be like, thank you so much. They had a new puppy. They parked their car kind of next to a playground area that's by where I live. And they had the trunk open where the puppy was. Puppy was just sitting next to them in between the two owners, and they were just feeding him for looking and engaging with the environment. And I just was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I definitely encourage anybody who's trying to make positive associations with new experiences for their animal to do something like that. So you can park your car near a local park, restaurant, whatever it is, the flea market, the farmer's market, just doing a slow introduction. It doesn't have to be a long period of time where you're sitting there for an hour. It can literally be 5 minutes, especially if your dog has never seen it before. So you just treat them for engaging in what's happening around them. And it doesn't have to be physically engaging. It just can be visually. Engaging visually is perfect. Engaging with the air and sniffing around, that's great. You just have to work with your dog's comfort level. So again, short sessions. You can use high value rewards. Here we use meatballs, deli meat, which is like, please take that stuff home with you and use those things as well. And your dog is going to be like, oh my God, everything is the best. And then as your dog gets better, you can slowly increase your criteria. So instead of sitting in the car, maybe dog comes out of the car and just stands next to the car. That's like a whole nother level where if cars are coming by, if people are walking by, if someone wants to say hello, just, incrementally increase the difficulty level for your dog. And then eventually, hopefully, your dog will be able to kind of walk through and just go around the perimeter and kind of just check out what's going on. Just don't throw them in the deep end super quickly. What you're going to do when you're doing these sessions as well is just watching your dog's response. So I like to think that, I assume that everybody kind of knows like, oh, my dog is scared because it's cowering, right? So that's a huge red flag. Get your dog out of that situation. To kind of give you guys a resource of a language book that I actually really like because it's fully illustrated, is called Doggy Language by Lily Chin. It is brand new. I think it came out last year, but it has really, really great illustrated photos of dog body language and when you can tell when your dog is stressed. It shows you kind of the subtle signs as well. It's really great. You can get it on Amazon. That's where I got mine. You can also, again, by Miss Patricia McConnell, read The Cautious Canine. If you do find that your dog is more fearful than you thought your dog was going to be in new situations, I definitely encourage that read, How to Help Dogs Conquer Their Fears. It's probably still going to include a ton of high-value food and slow desensitization to new places. But with that, we're going to move on to cats. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys, but I'm going to pass it over to Caitlin, who's going to talk about what to do with our cats.
All right, so hello again. So most people assume that cats are incredibly independent and will be absolutely just fine when everything goes back to normal, right? Some cats are, but unfortunately, not every cat is as independent and confident as, we hope that they are. So cats that have been acquired during COVID, or maybe they're just readjusting back to a normal schedule, are actually just as likely as dogs to have difficulty adjusting to new things, people, and a whole bunch of other, interactions through life. And they can also have separation anxiety or separation-related problems, which are those SRPs that Sam had mentioned. This happens when you leave your house, but it will look slightly different than it will with dogs. So you may not necessarily see them going and chewing on your couch, but you will see it just manifesting in a different way. So slide, please. All right, so, I missed this one. I'm sorry, we'll have to jump to the next slide. Thank you. All right, so separation anxiety for cats. What exactly does that look like? So the biggest thing is it's basically, cats are very stressed. They feel very uncomfortable. They show it very differently. So with cats, you may see something as if they are, urinating in inappropriate places, just not using the litter box in general. Maybe they're scratching inappropriately. Maybe they're jumping in your blinds, kind of like the cat on the screen here. She's not quite as vicious as she might be, but that's okay. So instead of coming home to seeing your trash can contents all over the floor, you will be more likely to find that your cat urinated in an inappropriate place or scratched. So, and as frustrating as it can be, I want to start off by saying this is not your cat trying to get back at you. This is not your cat saying that they hate you. This is none of that. This is your cat saying, I'm very scared that you left me alone. And I know how frustrating it can be to clean up after a cat that used an area of your house as their bathroom, but please do not get upset with them. It's not intentional. So cats are incredibly routine oriented and they're very scent driven and sensitive. So what we mean by this is that even the slightest change in their routine can often affect them. So for example, if you've ever noticed that maybe you bring home a new scent in your house, so maybe it's something like you like essential oils and you start having lavender around the house, you may see your cat kind of chill out a little bit. That'd be nice. Maybe it's something else that a cat doesn't like. If it's something maybe citrusy, they may not like that at all. And it may not seem very powerful to you, but their noses are so sensitive that it will actually end up being quite powerful to them. So in addition to that, when we also say the change in their routine can affect them, you going back to work for 40 hours per week instead of staying home with them for 40 hours per week is a major change in their routine. Cats love routine. If you've ever noticed that, you know, in the morning you walk into the kitchen, they're like, hey, it's breakfast time, let's go. You know, maybe they're getting you up at 6 o'clock in the morning when you usually get up during the week. But on the weekends, if you like sleep until, you know, 8 o'clock, maybe they're still trying to wake you up at 6. That's going back to that routine orientation. So many times, separation anxiety in cats will, like I said, look like inappropriate urination, scratching, or other forms of destruction. Typically, though, the destruction is a little bit less likely. You may not necessarily see it as, you know, they tripped over your trash can, but you may see it as, you know, they're chewing on paper, maybe they're chewing on some fake plants or real plants, you know, whatever you may have. But with that, it's also the reason that they're choosing these items to either scratch, urinate, destroy, whatever it may be, is because 9 times out of 10, your scent is the strongest on those items. So for example, if you notice that your cat has urinated or scratched your couch, if you think back to when you were working at home for all of those long, long weeks, you were probably sitting on your couch working on your laptop typing away. So your cat is actually going to go to those areas where your scent is the strongest. They're like, hey, I really miss my mom. I'm going to go, you know, scratch up the couch because it smells like her. So with that, if your cat begins to inappropriately urinate in your house, the first thing you absolutely must do is take them to the vet. Please take them to the vet first before you implement any of these behavior modification plans. The reason being is you have to make sure that there is nothing else medically going on with your cat that just unfortunately timed up with you going back to work. So even if they were fine the day before, please take them to the vet, please. This is the biggest thing. And fortunately for you, it would be the easiest fix. If that was a medical reason, a lot of times they'll just put them on medication and the issue goes away on its own. But you do need to take them to the vet to make sure that that determination can be made first. All right, slide please. Thank you. So another thing that we're going to do is also look at when the inappropriate urination started. This kind of goes hand in hand with the vet medical issue first, but look at if it was before or after you changed your routine. The best thing that you can do is start a log. Now, if you are dealing with a cat that is urinating inappropriately where they're not using the litter box, you will want to take them to the vet immediately. And that's because, and I'm going to interject here for a second. I'm not a vet. I won't pretend to be one. So please make sure that if you have any questions about your cat's medical health, you take them to a licensed veterinary professional. So when we say start a log, what we mean here is that you've already taken them to the vet. The vet has ruled out anything is wrong with them medically. Then you can go ahead and proceed with a behavior plan. You can also talk to your veterinarian about a behavior plan too, if you are concerned or you want something maybe that's a little bit more tailored to you. If they can't help, they may be able to direct you to somebody who can. So when we say start a log, please don't start a log the second your cat doesn't use a litter box. Take them to the vet first, then start a log. So the other thing you're going to want to take a look at is if there are any litter box changes. So have you made any changes to the type of litter that you're using? If you switched out from gravel to maybe a corn litter or a newspaper litter, have you changed the litter box, whether that be the type of litter box or the location or the number of litter boxes you have in your house, the size, the shape? You would be surprised at the small things that your cat picks up on when it comes to what their litter box looks like. One thing I also want to add here is that the number of litter boxes is very important to cats. This is because a lot of times if you have a multi-cat household, you may see that some cats stop using the litter box because someone else is bullying them when you only have one litter box for 2 cats. So the typical rule of thumb here is that you will want to have 1 litter box per cat plus 1 more. So what we mean by that is if you have 2 cats, you would have 3 litter boxes. The reason being is you have to give them options. The biggest thing is just because if something happens in one litter box, they may choose to never go in that litter box again. So in order to prevent that, because you're already going to be thinking ahead here with extra litter boxes, you're going to go ahead and place an additional one through the house. So the other thing too is that the first step in this is that you can always try going back to the original version of the litter box and the litter that you were using before anything changed. That's typically going to be our recommendation. Go back to what was working and then slowly try to transition them over. So when we say slowly try to transition them, it's similar to how you may change their food or their diet. If you were to get a new food, you'd mix in that food little by little. If you're going to change litters, you're going to do the same exact thing. The reason being, like I said, cats are routine oriented. They like things to stay the same. So you're going to notice that maybe it might feel different on their paws. This is, a very big thing if you happen to have a cat that was declawed. Another thing too is that, the litter box itself, it may feel different or it may look different. If the litter box they originally had was a very rectangular shape where they walked in one side, the other three sides were very high-sided, and they went to the bathroom in one way, then you change it to maybe it's a corner box. Maybe their tail is hitting the edge of it, or maybe you have a long-haired cat where the hair on the bottom when they squat down is touching the litter and that feels uncomfortable to them. All of these things play a role. So this is going back to, just as you may enjoy sitting a certain way on the couch because it feels comfortable for you, it's very comfortable for cats to go to the litter box a very specific way. So those are just some things to keep in mind and the things that you should probably try first if you notice any litter box issues at all. If you'd like to learn additional information about litter box issues, which I think we covered most of the basics here today, but there's always more information available. Or if you'd like to know any other behavior issues that may be kind of common, or even just about cat behavior in general with a brief overview, I highly recommend reading Decoding Your Cat by the American College of Veterinary Behaviorists. They go through the whole gambit of problems that you may see. They'll also address some basic behavior by feline body language. So what your cat is trying to tell you during a certain time. These are all licensed veterinary professional behaviorists. They are leaders in their field. So I highly, highly recommend this book. Slide, please. All right, so where do we start? Basically, we're gonna use a very slow approach. Just as Sam mentioned, and I apologize, let me jump back in my notes here real quick. We're gonna use a very slow approach to getting our cats used to going back to normal. So slow and steady is going to win the race here. If you leave right away, you will terrify your cat, just as Sam mentioned that you can do with your dog. I'm so sorry, jumping around and missing my notes. So here we are. As you get ready, start by just leaving for a few short minutes at the beginning, just as Sam mentioned with the dogs. This is going to make sure that you're getting your cat used to what the sounds are when you start to leave. You can use enrichment at this time as well. I highly, highly recommend using enrichment. Just as you'd use enrichment for a dog, you can do it for a cat. Cats are foraging animals as well. They really like, some of them really like puzzles, and cats are really smart. I know people are kind of like, they're a cat, they're a roommate, it's cool, they're fine on their own. No, play with your cat, get your cat engaged on things. It is so much fun. It will not only improve your relationship with your cat, but it will also just improve your cat's natural well-being. So with that, you can use tons of different things, like what we call slow feeders, licky mats, treat balls, and other food puzzles, and we'll get to more of those in just a moment. But you can go ahead and kind of provide them with that enrichment activity prior to leaving. This will also pair your departure with some really good things that are happening. If you use a treat in those puzzles that are high value and you only use it when you go to leave, your cat will be like, oh, leaving is the best. I finally get some chicken, or I get some tuna, or whatever it may be. They're like, hey, go on, get out of here. I want my tuna. So like I said, we're gonna start really, really small. We're gonna keep those intervals nice and short and slowly increase. Just as you can with your dog, you can also use a log to start and kind of keep track of what you can do with your cat. So, slide please. Thank you. All right, so as I mentioned, enrichment. We're gonna back up 1 second, and I apologize, I'm all over the place today. So, we're gonna start with enrichment anyway. We're gonna go for it. So as your cat remains engaged in their enrichment activity, and we're gonna pause right here. Enrichment activities, they can be what are called kitty Kongs. So you can see the photo in the top left-hand corner of the screen there. It is a Kong, just like the rubber toy that is made for dogs. They make them for cats. You don't have to buy the cat version. You can buy the small dog version, it's up to you. You can fill these with items such as churros. You can put a little bit of chicken or beef broth and freeze them for your cat. You can even put some kitty canned food in there. Another option is a snuffle mat. So the snuffle mat is on the bottom left-hand side of that. Just as Sam mentioned, with the dogs, this applies for them too. The snuffle mats are really great mats that are basically like activity mats for animals. They have different areas of fabric that kind of stick up a little bit, and you hide the treats inside there. You don't have to necessarily like shove them all the way to the bottom, but you can just sprinkle it on top, or, you know, kind of play around with it and get it down there. So it's a little bit harder for the cats to pull the treat out. The item in the top right-hand side is called a licky mat. That is a silicone mat, and I typically recommend for cats the ones that have the little nubs in it. Many have different designs on them, but the green ones typically have the little nubs. The reason I recommend those is because licking, just as for dogs, is very calming for cats. But cats are very sensitive to what they're licking, sometimes a little bit more than dogs, I think. Because if you think about it, cats groom themselves, they groom each other, things like that. So I would highly recommend getting the one with the little nubs on it. You can put churros on there. You can feed them their canned food on there. It's, you know, all sorts of possibilities. And the last item on the bottom right-hand side is called an exerciser. And what that is basically a plastic treat ball that you can put dry food or dry treats in. These are super fun for cats. These are the definition of foraging. They have to beat the little ball around and go and chase after the food. There are lots of different items that you can find at home, or I'm sorry, that you can find online that you can even make yourself. There are so many options for this. We'll make sure that we put the link to that website in the comment section of this video. But the things that you can do at home are often like taking paper towel rolls and putting some treats in the middle and cutting a little holes inside of them and rolling the sides up. Or maybe you have some old Tupperware you don't need anymore. You can go ahead and cut a little hole out of the lid, put some treats and toys inside there, and your cat has to knock it around until they can get it out. These are all really great options because they, just like dogs, will boost your cat's confidence. And it's also a really great stress reliever for cats. I think that a lot of times we don't realize how stressed our cats are or can be because they display it quite differently than dogs. You're not going to see them necessarily panting or pacing or things like that, but you definitely will see them, you know, maybe they're a little bit more jittery. Maybe they're not as interested in, you know, an activity that they normally do. Or maybe it's just that they seem a little bit depressed, or they're not kind of as active as they used to be. So enrichment items are great for that. They're also really great ways to work your cat's mind. And I just have to note that the photo in the middle with the cat there, he's thinking about all the wonderful things that his owner is not doing with him. So he wants to make sure that he's plotting to make sure that you get those enrichment items for them. So next slide, please. All right, so here are some really great examples of enrichment. So the top video right here that we're playing right now is a licky mat. This is one of our cats named Caesar from the shelter. He loves licky mats to the point where he will jump up on the window because he's so excited to see you with a licky mat. So you just smear the food onto there and they go right on and lick it off. The video on the bottom is an example of a snuffle mat. This is our kitty Jande from the shelter, and she is going to town on that snuffle mat. Now, to be honest, I only dropped those treats on top of the snuffle mat. I did not like physically hide them underneath. As she was going to pick it up, she was putting them farther underneath there, but she was very excited to have her snuffle mat refilled. So these are both really great examples of things that we do at the shelter, but you can also do them at home. I have a multi-cat household myself, and I actually do enrichment with my cats every single day, as well as some interactive play too. So, all right, next slide, please. Technical difficulties. All right, thank you, Sam. So let's jump back to, before we move on to socialization, I would just like to make one more note. If you are still having issues with your cat's litter box issues after you've tried, you know, going back to normal, or you've tried the slow introductions of leaving. And when I say practicing leaving is exactly like the dogs, it's exactly like the dogs. You pick up your keys, you pick up your shoes, put your shoes on at a different time. It's the exact same system. Fortunately, animals learn the same, pretty much, it's the same concept. They may learn at different speeds, but you will do that exactly the same. The other thing I would just also like to mention is this does not have to be I'm going to sit down for 25 minutes and I'm going to train my cat. No, I don't do that myself. I'll be honest there. It's a lot easier if you just integrate it into your daily routine. I am a big fan of functional training, where it is a training system that you can just include into your daily routine. So when I eat dinner, my cats have an enrichment item. When I go to leave the house, they get an enrichment item, and we're practicing. I practice grabbing my keys throughout the day, just move them from place to place, pick them up. You may lose your keys every once in a while, but that's okay. You'll find them eventually. So that's just the biggest thing, is to take things slow. With the litter box issues specifically, if you try some of these items and they do not work, or if you're just like, hey, I need a professional help right away, this isn't good, I'm not going to be able to, handle this for very long, please contact a veterinary behaviorist. The reason being is that your cat may need some medication to reduce their anxiety. It's not uncommon. I think it is just humans that need the mental shift on getting their cats on some anxiety medication, or just medication in general for a behavior issue. Additionally, a veterinary behaviorist not only knows the medication inside and out and can prescribe the best medication for what's going on with your pet, but they'll also create a personalized behavior modification plan for you to work on with your cat. This may also include altering the setup of your house, changing the specific routine that you have to a better fit, as well as a training schedule depending on the severity of the issues. Sometimes having both medication and a behavior modification plan is the right recipe for success for you and your cat. Like I said, it's a really, really great thing to get all of that kind of squared away at once. Medication can really help take the edge off. If anyone has ever experienced some anxiety issues of their own, medication can really, really help. So now we're going to jump onto socializing your cat. So what I think is super fun with this is, so many people I know are like, oh, I just want a kitten, I'm so excited to bring them home, which is wonderful. We're so happy for you. How are you going to socialize them? Because you can't take them out on the street most of the time like a dog, right? It kind of sounds a little silly. So, but that's okay. Socialization is really important for both an adult and a kitten. So to do that, some cats are naturally shy. I'm going to give that disclaimer right now. However, many actually just suffer from lack of proper socialization. Just like dogs and puppies, cats need to be socialized, what we call novel stimuli or new things. If you don't do this for your kitten, or if you didn't have your cat when they were young, don't worry, you can socialize them now. So for cats, especially because they are in a unique situation that they're naturally a predator to some small animals, but they're also prey to some other predators, they have a pretty good fight or flight response. And fight or flight is the response that animals have when they experience something that's scary. Depending on the circumstances, the animal may choose to either run away from what's scaring them, or they will choose to fight against what's scaring them. Unless they really, really can't, most animals will choose to run away. This is why we always encourage you to never corner your animal. Always make sure your animal has optional escape routes. That's for everybody's safety, animal and you. So how are cats used to things that may be scary to them? We just put them in a room with a scary thing and wait it out, right? No, please do not do that. The reason is that's like what Sam mentioned in the week flooding, when she gave a really great story about going to New York City for the first time. We don't want to do that for our cats, or our dogs, neither. Flooding is basically where we put them in a room and we say, everything really scary is going to happen to you right now and it's going to work itself out, right? It's not. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's going to make whatever you're experiencing, that fear and anxiety, a lot worse. You can even create new problems from doing something like that as well. So in this situation, your cat's fight or flight may kick in and they may turn into Rambo as they try to bite and claw their way out. That is not something you want to be on the receiving end of. So we have to take it slow, right? Take it really, really nice and slow. And I really love this little comic that we added on here. It says, a large spider 5 meters away doesn't seem scary anymore because the individual is in the room and he's looking at spiders that are contained. Little does he know there's a gigantic spider coming in the door behind him. That's what we call flooding. So please make sure that as you are doing and practicing these exercises, you are taking it very slow and you are moving step to step while keeping an eye on what's going on with your cat or your dog. And you're just making sure that they're moving along slowly. The beautiful thing about moving slowly with your cat is something that originally seems scary, if you're doing it right, shouldn't seem scary as you're slowly introducing it. You're keeping them what we call below threshold, meaning you're keeping them below stress levels. So you're going to keep them nice and calm as they experience the thing that was once scary to them, and you're slowly amping it up. So I'm going to give you guys one example, and it's slightly interactive, and it is something that I think hopefully it won't freak anybody out too much, but I've done it before, so it should be fine. So if you're nervous at all, just skip ahead a little bit. But anyway, so slow and steady is going to definitely win the race in any situation with new noises, new people, anything like that. So first, think of something that you're afraid of. It can be snakes, spiders, clowns, whatever it is. Imagine being in a very small room that is locked from the outside and you can't escape. Only the room is filled with that scary item for you. It's not cool. I'm sure some of you already feel like your blood pressure is raising a little bit. Your heart might be beating a little bit faster. You're very likely going to end up in a ball curled up on the floor with your eyes tight as shut, like tight as closed as they possibly can be. This is very similar to what your cat may be feeling. They're just not going to show it in the exact same way, and they can't say, hey, please knock it off, I'm scared. The way that they're going to do that is, they may hiss, their ears may go back, their pupils might dilate, their tail, they may make themselves really small. You may see their bodies kind of tense up. They may wrap their tails around them really tightly. So please don't do this to your cat. I like to kind of put it in perspective for you guys too, just for a second, so that you can understand that this is not the way that we want to do it. So what might your cat even be scared of, right? They're a cat, they're living the life, they're living the dream, they've got you to serve them. Nothing scary in the world to them, right? Wrong. So during a time where us humans did not have people over our house for over a year, most cats are going to be very afraid of humans coming into the safety net that is their home. Remember, your cat only knows the four walls that you have them in, which is their house. So please remember that they may not necessarily be as welcoming to people coming in. Maybe it's noises that come from people coming in the house, or it's loud voices, or it's someone knocking on the door, or even the doorbell ringing. Those things can be kind of frightening. Other times it can even be the carrier coming out, because your cat realizes they only leave the house when it's time to go to the vet. And that's when the carrier comes out. So we're going to do a super quick run through. Fortunately, this is recorded, so you guys can always go back and check it out again, as to if you want to get your cat used to some of these things. So the first one is going to be unfamiliar noises. This does also work with dogs too, but we're talking about cats right now. So identify what is motivating to your cat. When we train with cats, we train with them a little bit differently. So that being said, some cats are really food motivated. You may have a cat that's like, give me all the food right now. They're stealing food off your plate, whatever. They may just be very food motivated. Other cats are more motivated by attention. Other cats are more motivated by brushing. So you just have to kind of think about what's going to be the highest value reward for your cat. What gets your cat the most excited? If you're ever not sure, what you can do is you can offer your cat some treats, offer your cat your hand, and then offer to brush your cat in a similar time frame, but just a little bit, and see which item they kind of pick first. So then you can also even try playtime as a reward. So it may be a toss of a pom-pom. I have a cat that really loves to play fetch, and you pick out the pom-poms and nothing else in the world matters to her. So you're going to have to kind of base it off of, what you're working with your cat. So let's see. If your cat is on a special diet, I will make this note too, that can be difficult to give super tasty treats, which is why I also want to mention that brushing is a great reward, or playtime as well. So you're going to start by presenting the reward that your cat has chosen to them. If you've selected playtime, start playing with your cat with that wand toy or laser pointer. If it's food, go ahead and give them a tiny little treat to get them interested in it. And while you're engaging in that activity, play the noise that they're afraid of on your phone or computer at a very low volume. And I'm talking almost inaudible. We're not trying to scare them out the gate. We're going to start nice and slow. So when your cat looks up or acknowledges the sound, say yes and engage them in the reward activity again. So it's going to kind of feel a little bit backwards for a second, where if you're playing with your cat, they look up and they acknowledge the noise, you're going to go ahead and say yes, and then you're going to start a vigorous play session again. Then you can go ahead and take a pause, and then you're going to go again. So over the course of a few days, as your cat gets used to the noise at its current volume, you're going to very slowly increase the volume little by little, and any time that they hear the noise, they're going to get the reward. Just as Sam mentioned, when taking things slow with your dog, you want to take things nice and slow with your cats too. If you move too fast, you may end up scaring them. The other thing too is, please don't be afraid to back up. Just like Sam said, if you ever get to a point where you're just like, hey, this isn't working for my cat, I can't quite figure out why, it may be that maybe the noises the noise is a little bit too loud. So you may have to just decrease the volume a hair. Once you can play your phone or computer at full volume with the noise, your cat is and your cat is more interested in the reward, and so they're totally ignoring the noise. Then you've graduated to the real thing. As long as it's safe, have the real noise playing, preferably at a somewhat lower volume, and continue rewarding your cat. But this may also look like having your neighbors outside to have a chat outside of your window at a low volume while you're in the house rewarding your cat. Or maybe the neighbor playing something like Pats outside your window if it's you're worried about like a really loud bang or something like that. Even maybe it's just you knocking on the table, while your cat's hanging out with you, if it's the knock on the door that makes them uncomfortable. While you have graduated to introducing your cat to the real sound, you still want to take it slow. A phone sound is not nearly as lifelike as the real thing, unfortunately. So please be sure to start with the noise farther away, such as outside, especially if it's conversation among other people. Or if it's, if you're working with your cat, like the knock on the door, for example, you can always be across the house, knock on the wall, and then go ahead and reward your cat. The other thing too is that you can slowly work your way inside. So if it's something like a conversation outside, you can slowly bring that conversation closer to the door. Eventually it's right inside the front door, and then maybe it's closer, in the house, something like that. After plenty of practice, you can start fading out the use of the reward. You still want to do this very slowly, but you can start reducing the amount of reward that they get when they notice the new scary thing, the noise. At that point, maybe you don't give them the reward once, but maybe you do it the next 2 times or every other time. That can kind of be up to you. As long as your cat is still remaining calm when they hear that noise, then you can go ahead and start fading that reward out. The goal is for your cat to be able to listen to the sound that previously startled them and not react to it. All right, next one, please. Right, thank you. All right, so all of these are gonna sound kind of the same, so we're gonna jump a little bit faster for these next 2. If it's new people that is scaring your cat, again, you're gonna identify the motivator that we already talked about. You're gonna start encouraging your cat to perch by the window or maybe on top of a cat tree or something like that. I prefer the window, like near a cat tree, because cats really like high places. They're gonna have a much higher confidence build up right there already because they're gonna be nice and high. But the windows are great because you're gonna kind of use the same concept that you did with dogs. So you're encouraging them to perch by the window. When they see a new person walk past the window, go ahead and reward your cat with their favorite motivator. If you live in a home that does not have a ground floor, or maybe you just don't have a lot of people walking past your house, you can also start with the noises that they may hear from people in the hallway, or maybe even a recording from your phone. So maybe it's like a car door slamming, or it's a muffled conversation, or it can even be footsteps, something like that. As your cat begins to acknowledge the voices or the people walking past and look to you for the reward, so there's going to be a second when they see what's going on, they're going to look towards you. It's in that moment that you're going to try and bring someone into the house. So for this step, I highly recommend putting a barrier up around your front door on the inside so that your cat does not decide to make a break for the door. Remember that fight or flight response. We want to make sure that they're going to stay safe and that they're going to stay in the house. So this can be something like an X pen or a baby gate. Those are really easy solutions to that. Have a friend or family member that your cat may not know step into the home very quietly and start talking to you in a very low volume while you reward your cat for being near them. I'm sorry, my cats are destroying my house. This may be difficult if your cat chooses to run away and hide. The person may be hanging out at your front door while you are playing with your cat in the bedroom, and that's totally okay. So stay where your cat's comfortable and just keep it nice and easy. You do not at all want to force your cat to come closer to the person. So please don't pick them up and carry them over to the new person. That's going to result in a lot of scratches on you. It's terrifying. If you think about it, a cat who's usually maybe a foot off the ground max is being carried over to this new scary person. They're going to try their best to get away from you. Rambo's going to come out, so let's not let them get that far. So this can sometimes take a few days to encourage them to kind of come out and show off in their house. But for this one, I like to remind everyone that your cat may never be very excited to see new people, and that's okay. It just goes back to what I said before about them being a predator and a prey animal at the same time. So their instincts for self-preservation are going to be a little bit more intense than maybe what you'd see with a dog. And, you know, your cat may just never run up to greet your guest, but you can at least make the experience of someone entering the house much less scary to them and less stressful. If it comes down to it, there is nothing wrong with having your cat hang out in your bedroom or in their safe place, giving them some fun enrichment items and saying, all right, bud, I'll be back for you in 2 hours when my guest leaves. That's okay too. All right, slide, please. And for the last one, we're going to do some carrier desensitization, which just means getting your cat used to being in the carrier. So many cats flee the second that they see or hear the storage area where their carrier is, with like you move the carrier in the closet or something. And then you have to catch your cat to get them into the carrier. That can kind of be dangerous sometimes, especially if it's an emergency. So try to get them used to the carrier, you know, one step at a time. So first, what you're going to do is you're actually going to pull the carrier out of storage and just take the door off and leave it wide open to let your cat go in and out. Anytime your cat goes near the carrier, you're giving them that great reward motivator that they have. For this situation, brushing or feeding will likely work best. Playtime can work though too, because especially if you're using something like a laser pointer, you can kind of shoot the little laser into the carrier to encourage them to go in safely. Encourage your cat to go into the carrier as well by feeding them their meals in the carrier with the door open. This is a really great way to incorporate training into your daily routine without changing up your routine too terribly much. When your cat is used to going into the carrier freely, begin closing the door and immediately opening it back up. This will show them that just because the door closes doesn't mean that they're going someplace or that it has to be a scary situation. Slowly increase the amount of time that the door remains closed, but continue rewarding them while they're in the carrier. So for this one, I highly recommend, if your cat is a food motivated cat, to use what's called churro. It's a pate or pureed, I guess, treat for cats that kind of comes in a little tube. Cats go bananas for it. I have seen very few cats turn it down, to be honest. You can also use baby food on a longer spoon, like you can take an end of a wooden spoon and just kind of like dunk it in there, or a popsicle stick or something like that. But baby food with no herbs or like seasonings or anything like that is going to be best. So to take it to the next level, when your cat can be in the carrier for a few minutes at a time with the door closed, very gently take the carrier up just a few inches off the ground and set it right back down so that they can get used to being moved in the carrier. You're slowly going to increase the distance that they're being moved in the carrier, so be sure to reward them during the movement and when you set them down. You'll know if your cat's really comfortable for this one is if they're going to eat while they're being moved. Sometimes the movement is what really freaks the cats out as opposed to actually being in an enclosed space. So just kind of keep that in mind. But by allowing your cat free access to the carrier, you've removed the association that going into the carrier means that they're going to the vet. So just keep practicing. And even if your cat is comfortable in the carrier, try and give them their reward every so often just to keep the experience a good one. Next slide, please. Awesome. The COVID kittens. This is such a great photo too. All right, so kittens, energetic little balls of fur, right? All right, I think there's another slide on this one, Sam, so I'll ask you to move on to the next slide if there is. Perfect. So the biggest thing with kittens, I think the thing that has truly, this is one way, you gotta love technology, you gotta love the internet, but I will say that so many people have tried the little peekaboo with their cats on their bellies that it has turned these little kittens into, let's just play with their hands. That's where all the fun comes from, right? Wrong. When they're a 10-pound cat and they're playing with your fingers, it's not nearly as much fun, or it was not as cute as when they were only 8 weeks old, I promise you. So this is a really big one for anyone who has brought home young kittens. We see this a lot when kittens are tiny, that, you know, you get in there, you want to play with your hands, the kittens are kind of grabbing your hand or grabbing your finger, and they're so gently biting on your hand. You can even see in this photo, this kitten is not applying a lot of pressure to that person's hand. And I say that because you can still see the tip of their tooth. So this is more of a love bite. We still don't want to reinforce that behavior, and we don't want to reward that behavior to make it continue. So while it can be fun to kind of wiggle your fingers in front of their face and encourage them to play with your hands, like I said, there's going to be a lot more weight and power that they're going to throw behind the assault on your fingers when they weigh 10 pounds and they're fully grown. So rule number one, we're not teaching kittens to play with fingers. Sorry, guys. But if you have taught your kitten to play with your fingers or hands, please don't worry, we can still fix it. Hopefully you've caught it early though. The first thing that you're gonna do, like I said, no more playing with hands and fingers. When you start, and then the next thing you're gonna do, in literally same day change, you're gonna start doing some interactive play with your cat or kitten for 5 to 15 minutes per session, at least twice a day. That's ridiculous, you say. It is not. I say that because cats typically hunt up to 30 times a day. And while they do not catch their prey every time that they hunt, they are going to catch it quite a bit. So cats are naturally very active animals. So when we say interactive play session, that just means like I'm going to hold the toy and just going to kind of dangle it up and down, right? No, you're going to get into that and play with your cat just as hard as they're playing with that toy. You're giving them your undivided attention and you are going to make them work for it. So you're also going to end each session with a treat or meal to signal the play session is done and to simulate a hunt. The big thing here, I would just like to make a note of, I know that it's so much easier to just go and buy an electronic toy and be like, here, entertain yourself. While that does work sometimes, your cat's going to get used to it really quick because no matter what motor you put into it, it's going to eventually create a pattern and they're going to figure it out. Your cat was created to hunt teeny tiny little bugs. They're going to figure out the regular motor of a toy that's moving around on its own with batteries. So please, while it's okay to have those, I have some myself. It's great to put out every once in a while. Don't rely on it to replace interactive play with your cat. Interactive play is going to be a wand toy. It's going to be a laser pointer, whatever it may be. It's going to be a really, really great toy for your cat. So with that, with the interactive toy or with the interactive play itself, you may have to find something that your cat likes. I hear so many people say, oh, my cat doesn't like wand toys. Okay, how many different wand toys have you tried? 2. That's not enough sometimes. Unfortunately, cats have different play styles. And I think we have an infographic on here. Sam, you know the slides best, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. It's perfect. So we have this interactive cat play infographic here. I love this infographic. It's absolutely fantastic. This you can find online. It is by Dr. Mikel Delgado. Let me make sure we give credit where credit's due. So there are lots of different play types that cats have. Sometimes they're ground hunters, which may be the mouse-like example that you can see on here. They may be a feather toy where they like to, maybe they'd like to catch the birds that are flying through the air. They may also be bug-like. So for this one, I'd recommend a cat dancer toy because it's a very tiny little attachment that goes around on a wire. The other thing too is it could be snake-like. So maybe it's a cat dancer also makes another toy that it just kind of is like a ribbon. So we'll let you explore this on your own, but I do just want to make sure that we kind of put some of this out there is that interactive play is vital to your cat's well-being. Next slide, please. All right, so different associations with hands. So we've taught our cats to play with hands. We're working on fixing it. How do we change this for our cats? Every time I give my cat my hand, they're gonna jump on it, right? No, we're gonna start creating really good new associations with that. So hand targeting is a great way to reintroduce your hands. Teach them that when your hand is in their face, it's not time to play. To help them generalize and practice this, you're gonna practice in different rooms and in different heights and different environments at different times of the day. It's not always gonna be after you wash the dishes. It's not always gonna be after you finish petting them. It's gonna be, you gotta mix it up. So for step-by-step hand targeting, you can also do this with dogs as well. You're gonna rub some stinky treat on your hand. It's gonna be a little bit of churro, tuna, chicken, baby food, whatever it may be. We're getting dirty here for a second. So you're gonna go ahead and present your hand to your cat, palm forward, where that tasty food is. When they sniff your hand, because there's always gonna be a split second where they sniff your hand before they lick your hand, you're gonna go ahead and reward them, dispense with from a treat from your other hand. It can be the same treat, we're not wasting food. And then you're just gonna keep repeating this until you can present your hand with nothing on it and your cat will touch their nose to your hand. You're gonna go ahead and give them that treat every time. You can slowly fade it out. This is a really nice way for you to teach your cat and your dog, but mostly your cat right now, to teach your cat that that hands are really good and that hands bring good things when we behave appropriately around them. Next slide, please. All right, so I believe that's all we have for you today, right, Sam? Just shake your head, yes. Yay. All right, so if you guys are ready for a post-COVID world, I'm sure so many people are ready to get back out there and start, getting back to what was before COVID. There's no better day than today to get started for you and your pet. These things will take some time for your pet. Just as much as it took some time for everybody to get used to what lockdown was and quarantines and everything else, it's going to take your pet some time to get used to you going back to what it was before. So just keep all of that in mind. Take things very, very slow. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help as best as we can. Feel free, she's on it. Feel free to check out some of Feel free to check out some of those resources that we mentioned throughout the presentation. And I'll kick it over to Sam real quick for any closing remarks.
Yeah, no, I guess if you guys have any questions specifically for either Caitlin or I, you can always email us. Our emails are up on the screen, or you can email any general training questions to training@awla.org. You can visit us at awla.org on our website to see any of our other resources or services that we provide to the community, and follow us on social media. It's at AWLA Arlington on Instagram, and just search for Animal Welfare League of Arlington on Facebook. But thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and I hope that you guys, as well as your pets, are going to start getting ready for a post-COVID world today.
Have fun.